I finally became persuaded that it was not intellectually silly to believe in a creator and to embrace the resurrection as a historical fact. Becoming a Christian presented some really unique and interesting challenges for me on Growing Pains. And there were people who would even say things like, Kirk Cameron, born again, destroys the morale on the set, getting people fired. And I was just a kid trying to do the right thing because we were a family show and I wanted to honor God with the character that I was playing. I began to see that I'm just gonna keep being obedient to God and let Him open the doors that I should walk through, close the doors that He doesn't want me to walk through, and just trust that it's gonna work out okay. So I wouldn't have called myself a strong atheist as we know that term today. I think I would have said, there's no evidence for God. There's just, I don't believe in God. None of my friends were Christians, and the ones that I knew who were Christians, I thought that was pretty silly. I didn't go to church. We never talked about God. I put God in the category of a different Trinity, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and God. In my mind, that's where He belongs.
Santa Claus, yeah.
Santa Claus, right, that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I was about 17 years old that somebody took me to church and I heard a message from a preacher. And I didn't believe what he was saying, but he did. He was speaking with passion. He had a Bible in his hand. And guess who the preacher was? Chuck Swindoll.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't know who he was,
Yeah.
but I left with lots of questions, and I asked this friend's father to talk to me about science and evolution and the Bible and other religions, and how can you believe a book that's 2,000 years old, and or much older than that, actually. And then he eventually said, Kirk, if you want to know if God is real, and you can't tell by everything that's around you, talk to Him, ask Him, but you've got to come to Him on His terms, humility and faith. I didn't really have much of either one as a teen idol atheist back in the day, but I was sitting in my sports car, parked on the side of the road, thinking about the fact that one day I could die and find out if what that preacher said was true.
My goodness.
And if there's a heaven, I wouldn't be going. And so I remember praying for the first time, and I just said, God, if you're there, I want to know. If you're real, would you show me?
My goodness.
And would you forgive me from the wrong things that I've done? Because I know I've done wrong things. And would you make me the man that you created me to be? And again, I didn't know if I was just talking into the air or what, but I had this sense when I finished that perhaps I just spoke to the God of the universe and maybe He would answer me. And He was so kind to do more than that. He changed me on the inside, and I began going to church, and somebody gave me a Bible, and I began to follow Jesus as the Lord of my life, and everything changed from that point on.
Your family's reaction to this change in Kirk?
So I find out when I tell my mom and dad that I want to go to church, that my mom says, you do? I've always wanted us to go to church. I was a Christian when I was a little girl. My parents took me to church. But, as we got older, we just never really went. And, we wanted you kids to make your own decisions. And at that time, my parents were actually in the midst of a separation. And so this actually became something that brought our family closer together, going to church. Maybe that would help. Maybe that would bring us closer together as a family. And then all of a sudden, one by one, like dominoes, my family members started to get saved. My sisters, my mom, and then eventually my dad, and I even had a chance to baptize my father several years later. So I'm super, super grateful to the way that God worked in our family.
Wow.
So what do you attribute the moment that you went from Jesus as part of the Santa Claus and Easter Bunny Trinity to maybe I'm actually talking to the creator of the universe? That's quite the jump.
It is.
And is there a little bit of connective tissue there that you can tell us about?
Yes.
How it worked for you?
Two things immediately come to my mind. One is I realized that when you're talking about God, you're talking about eternity, you're talking about very significant things. I remembered that I was part of the ultimate statistic. 10 out of 10 people die. We can't get around it. As Phil Robertson always likes to say, we're all headed for a 6-foot hole, right? And there's only one way out of that hole. And I thought, I'm gonna find out, and this is forever. And the truth is, as much as I love science, I knew that there are mysteries in the universe that cannot be explained. We don't have enough knowledge to understand a fraction of how we got here, why we're here, how it all happened. And so that alone humbled me and made me say, maybe I don't know everything. And then the other thing was I got a book from this friend called More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell. And that little book presented this dilemma he called the trilemma, that Jesus made such outlandish statements about himself that he was either lying, or he was a lunatic and thought he was telling the truth, but he wasn't, or he was Lord of the universe. Those are the only three options. Later, he added legend to that trilemma. And as I read through that, it gave me the ability to open the door intellectually to examine the scriptures and the resurrection and the claims of Christ without feeling like I was believing, it was the equivalent of believing in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy. Because so much evidence is piled up for the reliability of the scriptures, for instance. So much needs to be accounted for if you want to say that all of the universe popped out of nothing as a result of nobody designing it. And so that got me thinking, you know, I'm going to read guys like William Lane Craig. I'm going to read guys like Bruce Metzger. I'm going to read and listen to intelligent people that have devoted their life to this. And I finally became persuaded that it was not intellectually silly to believe in a creator and to embrace the resurrection as a historical fact. So that was sort of the head problem, the intellectual problem. But it was the conscience that drove me to my knees, realizing that one day I will die. And if I stand before God, I'm guilty. I'm on the hook morally, and I need his forgiveness. And so I wanted for God to change me into who he wanted me to be.
Takeaways is airing right here on TBN a lot. We love what you're doing, Kurt. Thank you for what you're doing. Most of us remember, though, back to the Mike Seaver days, right? And so let's jump back. Give us a walkthrough of your day. For many years of your young life, you were, you know, doing this sitcom, and you were going into millions of homes, and all of that was happening, and you know, growing pains was a thing. So what was those days like? What was that like on those days?
I started Growing Pains when I was 14 years old, and I really didn't have to do much acting. I mean, I essentially was playing myself at 14 years old, sort of the teenage troublemaker. I think Alan Thicke, who played my father in Growing Pains, described Mike Seaver as a hormone with feet, right? So he's just always looking at, you know, all the pretty girls, and he's getting in trouble because he's 14 years old. And for me, it was just, my normal day involved going to Warner Brothers Studios and working for 8 hours and going to school for 3 hours in a little trailer on a back lot and meeting with agents and lawyers and managers and all of that. Again, for me, that was my normal from 14 to 20, which is strange, but I don't have any other childhood to compare it to. It was fun. I had a great time. The cast of Growing Pains was so phenomenal, we felt like we were one another's second family.
Wow.
So Alan was very fatherly toward everyone, and Joanna was very motherly toward everybody, and we celebrated one another's birthdays. We'd get together for Thanksgiving or Christmas celebrations, would at least exchange gifts, and we had a great environment to work in as a kid.
Call times. What was that like?
Oh, so you'd get there at maybe 9 o'clock in the morning and start school until it was time to rehearse or get ready for makeup and wardrobe and all of that. That was one of the strange things as a 15-year-old boy putting on makeup, right? So, you know, maybe not today, but back in my day.
Right now, so yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
You and I both have makeup on.
Yeah. And so, you know, that was That was strange. And I think growing up in a bit of a fishbowl where you have millions of people looking at you as a teenager, as a teenager, you're concerned enough about what people think of how you look.
Yeah.
And here you are in front of millions of people. And that was back in the day where there weren't so many cable stations.
Right.
And you had ABC, NBC, CBS, essentially, and many, many millions
Everybody
of people.
watched it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of pressure, but it was a lot of fun. And I didn't know how long it would last. And I was sort of always thinking that this would end one day and I'd go back to school and become a doctor.
Wow.
That didn't happen.
So then what happened? So what happened after the nine seasons?
Well, toward the last season or two of Growing Pains, I met my wife, Chelsea, who was playing my girlfriend. And we got engaged, we got married, and the show was slowly winding down. And Leonardo DiCaprio had come on to the cast the last year of the show, so that was exciting. And when the show finally ended, I had a mixed bag of emotions. I was sad that this era of my life was over, but I was also exciting that I was launching into a brand new chapter. And the adventure would be together with my wife. And who knows what that would entail, but for me, I had just finished years and years, almost a decade of being on a TV show. And so I was ready for a break.
Sure.
And we didn't have a break for that long. We started another television sitcom called Kirk, and that lasted for a little while. That was lots of fun. And then we started thinking about raising a family.
Yes. And?
And, well, we started out by adopting a little baby, and his name is Jack, and then we adopted a little girl named Bella, and another little girl named Anna, and another little boy named Luke, and we had 4 kids really quick, and then all of a sudden, Chelsea's pregnant, and then that happened again, and so now we have 6 kids, all a year apart, so at one point we had 6 kids 7 years old and younger.
Oh
My goodness.
So we had, double strollers, backpacks, front packs, and you didn't want to be the passengers that sat next to us on an airplane because we had 6 little ones, 7 and under.
My
And but they were crazy days, but they were full days
Your
of fun.
passion for what you stand for. You are a pillar, I will say, in Hollywood, standing up for values on every front, for God, for all things pure and holy and moral and all that good stuff. How does that play in your life right now with your kids?
Well, as far as the pure and holy and moral stuff, remember, I'm an actor. I could be faking this whole thing.
I know, but you do it so well. You've done it. You have done that for years here on TV, and you have stood for such beautiful things, and I commend you for that because it's a dog-eat world.
Yeah.
Dog-eat-dog up there.
What I am constantly reminded of is that those who are on pedestals, either self-made pedestals or pedestals that other people put you on, often it's a setup for a great fall.
Sure.
And we've seen so many people within the family of faith faceplant and make terrible mistakes that are not only devastating to their own lives and ministries and careers, but to the lives of the people around them that have so trusted them and depended upon them. And so I am always very cautious, and I really do feel like, the spine that holds me up, the only pillar that I depend on is the fear of the Lord,
Yes.
which is the beginning of wisdom, the Bible says, and just understanding that God's given me so much more than I deserve. If He gave me what I deserve, I would be a pile of smoking ashes on this coffee table, and I recognize that. And yet, the fear of the Lord has brought me to a place of a love for God. Jesus is all important to me. Because He's forgiven me, He's granted me eternal life, and I want to live my life in a way that says thank you. And I know that's a daily thing of working out my salvation with fear and trembling. So thank you for your kind words and your encouragement. That puts wind in my sails to keep going, and I want to finish well. I want to honor God and my family, and I want to hear well done at the end of the race.
All right, Growing Pains. What year are we talking about? It's been a while. So what years to what years, just so I can get that back in my head?
So 1984 was when Growing Pains started.
All right.
And finished, I think, early
in the
90s. Yeah.
Okay. So we're back to the 80s. You know pretty quickly that this show has become a solid hit on television, right?
Right.
Okay. So take us back to the first time that you get, let's say, interviewed in regard to being one of the lead actors, if not the lead actor, in a series like that, and now you're on a Tonight Show, or you're on a this show, or you're on that show, or something like that, and what that was like for you? Because you're a little kid. Come on.
I remember being asked to go on the Arsenio Hall show.
There it is.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Got it.
Or the Regis and Kathy Lee show.
There it is.
And it was strange to me because I thought, why do you want me to go on these shows? I mean, right? Like, I don't know. I don't even want to be an actor. I'm just my mom and dad took me here, and it was so strange for me when people would say that I was famous or that they wanted my autograph. I thought, surely they're kidding, or they're just joking around. And I was so nervous. I would often ask Alan Thicke, who was a talk show host in Canada for all those years on a show called Thick of the Night.
Right.
How do I do this? And so he would give me tips and tricks and advice on, always have a story and tell what happened. And I just never felt that I was very good at that. So for me to be actually hosting a show like Takeaways on TBN is sort of strange for me.
So you have nervous people showing up in front of you now. Yeah.
Now, exactly. Now I get to turn the tables. But again, I think once I came to faith in the Lord and I began to read in the scriptures that nothing's by accident, that God is orchestrating and choreographing all these things to work together for good for those who love him, that he's prepared these good things in advance for us to do, I began to see that, I'm just going to keep being obedient to God and let him open the doors that I should walk through, close the doors that he doesn't want me to walk through, and just trust that it's going to work out okay. Becoming a Christian presented some really unique and interesting challenges for me on Growing Pains. So if I could put it in a different context, imagine your teenage son comes to you one day and says, "Hey, Dad, I'm not sure I agree with all the decisions that you're making. I think as a family, we should take the moral high road instead." You might feel a little challenged by your son. And so for me, I'm 17, 18 years old, and as a young actor, I'm saying to some of the producers and writers, hey, I'm not comfortable with all the decisions that you're making in the script. I don't really want to say that. I think that as a role model for kids, we should take the moral high road instead. And that, I think at times was not viewed as just a kid trying to do the right thing, but as a young celebrity trying to flex some muscle over the senior executives of the show. And of course, I didn't want that. I mean, I avoid conflict like the coronavirus. and yet, I couldn't seem to get away from it. And there were people who would even say things like, Kirk Cameron, born again, destroys the morale on the set, getting people fired. And I was just a kid trying to do the right thing because we were a family show, and I wanted to honor God with the character that I was playing.
Thank you for that.
I love this
you
number
for
one.
That. It's amazing.
That's it.
We have a standard.
So when it came to this kind of conflict that you were maybe feeling, did it ever get kind of untenable? I mean, did it really reach it? Was this a real thing?
It was a real thing. It really did produce real conflict on the set. And it didn't mean we couldn't work together, but I think there were people who felt like, Kirk thinks he's better than other people now, or Kirk's now a Christian, and so he doesn't cuss and swear and go to the same parties and do the things that we all used to love doing together. They would see me in my trailer at 18 years old, and for some reason I got it in my head that I would spend time during my break with a calligraphy pen on parchment paper, handwriting out some of the scriptures. And that sounds super spiritual, but I think I was so impressed with some of the handwritten manuscript evidence that I was reading about that I just wanted to have my own handwritten copy of the book of Matthew and give it to my kids one day. Kind of nerdy, I know, but I thought it was cool. But they would look at this and go, what? You used to be, playing the air guitar, singing Prince songs on the set, and now you're handwriting the book of Matthew in your trailer? Like, what happened to this guy? Is he involved in some kind of a cult? Is he okay? Do we need to rescue him? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm just, listening to my Father in heaven. And if you don't know what that's all about, that just sounds kind of weird and strange and fringe. So it was challenging navigating through all of that. And my family weren't Christians at the time. And so I was struggling through it. And I'm sure that I handled things with less maturity and grace than I should have, could have. But I was just a kid trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You stood firm. And I think, Kirk, I think what we're saying is that it is very noticeable by all of us that in a way that made a difference, you stood. And if that's been painful, if that's caused problems, at least we're here saying thank you for what you've done and the life that you've lived all these years.
Thank you for saying that. That is very encouraging to me, and that means so much to me. I think, like you, I want to hear at the end of this journey, well done, my good and faithful servant. I don't want to fail. And someone who's been inspiring to me in that regard is Billy Graham. I think here's a man who committed himself to the gospel, and he never got caught up in moral controversy. And, I can understand why so many do, because we're so easily drawn toward, our lower nature and the distractions of the world, like a moth seems to be drawn toward a flame and just destroys itself. And that's why I remember that I'm a man just like everybody else, and the only thing that keeps me from heading toward the flame is the kindness, the grace, and the mercy of God. And I recognize it. And I think it's a great place to be, is always on your knees, always dependent, always recognizing that you're one bad decision away from losing everything. And so I'm thankful for inspirations like Billy Graham, and I'm thankful for your encouragement.
So I've been noticing on the big screen back here that occasionally there's a thing with you on the cover of Tiger Beat magazine. So I'd like to point that out and be honest, Kirk. When you got the call to be a part of Tiger Beat magazine, this would have been roughly mid-'80s, somewhere around there. That had to be a good day for you, didn't it? Come on.
Well, I didn't know what Tiger Beat magazine was. I'm a 15-year-old boy. We don't read Tiger Beat magazine. There are other magazines that we might have read, but it wasn't Tiger Beat. So what is Teen Bop and Tiger Beat? And so we would take these pictures, and you're wearing muscle shirts, and you're trying to look cool, and I'm like, I'm not cool.
That never really ticked your ticker. If that the call to go and be on the cover of a heartthrob teen magazine, that wasn't a big moment for you?
That was more embarrassing than anything else, right?
Really?
Because you got guys like.
Would you have liked that?
Do you remember?
I don't know. I wouldn't have gotten the call. So let's not even discuss that one.
Honey.
So the expectation, I think, is. Oh man, like I've got to be cool, and I've got to look great, and I've got to have good stories to tell, and all of that. It was kind of like going on a television show. So I think at the time I was just more nervous than anything else, and then when there's like pinup posters
Of you.
of you and
Yeah.
your weakling arms in your muscle shirt. That was even more embarrassing. But you know, it was part of the job. It's something I had to do, and I look back on it now, and it makes me laugh.
Okay, your final thoughts on this, let's say, journey that you've been on that started at 14 by begging on a door and pleading to, get into an audition. You got the role. Mike Seaver, Growing Pains, you're here. You've done films, you've done this, you've done that. And you're really putting your shoulder to the wheel of Christian television 2.0, and you're a big part of this, Kirk. Your final thoughts on that journey?
I realize that God has been very kind, and I have one shot at being a dad, one shot at being a husband, and I want to make my days count. I see people that do incredible things with the opportunities given to them. I mean, right here, you're leading a network that is going out to countries all over the world, and millions of people are being impacted by the decisions that you make. And so in my small way, I want to make decisions to be a part of projects that matter, like Takeaways, or like a movie like Monumental, where I tried to go back and understand what made America such a unique country in the world. And today I see the challenges that my kids and my grandkids are going to have, and so I'm doing what I can to begin to integrate the biblical principles and the foundational ideas of this country and show how they go together to produce liberty and to produce blessing. I'm trying to listen to the voice of God and follow his lead and do things that are going to be uniquely important at this moment in time. And for some reason, the Lord keeps giving me opportunity. And so as long as he continues, I'll keep doing it.